People like my father chose to go into the United States military to protect American soil. But what if there wasn't any soil left to protect? Now, I don't mean we're going to lose our soil or territory in a war or a fight per se, but rather lose our fertile cropland. Soil erosion can and will affect everyone on this earth if we let it. Let's look back at our history, see what's happening today, and look into what the future may hold for us. So, what is soil erosion? The United States Environmental Protection Agency defines soil erosion as the wearing away of the land surface by water, wind, ice, or other geologic agents. Soil erosion happens on every land surface naturally. Mountains become less pointy and sharp, and rock formations become smaller. The United States Department of Agriculture, or the USDA, states that only 1 inch of soil is replaced every 100 years, meaning that we must protect our soil, otherwise we won't have any left. The worst case of soil erosion happened during the Dust Bowl in the 1930s, otherwise known as the Dirty 30s. It started centuries ago when pioneers dug up prairie grass to plant crops. This with the combined effect of drought in the 1930s, left the fertile soil untethered of the earth and dry and easily whisked away by the wind, creating storms called black blizzards. These black blizzards blew dust into every nook and cranny that it could get into, including people's lungs and the lungs of animals, effectively choking them. Along with livestock, any crops that farmers could have grown were easily blown out of the soil, dried up from lack of water, or were eaten by insects. Now that we've looked at what our history has held for us, let's look at what farmers are doing now. You may have heard the phrase, if you don't study history, you're doomed to repeat it. But let's not repeat the Dust Bowl. Today, our farmers have many ways to combat soil erosion. They just aren't used. If you drive around in the country, when the corn is up, you see that you can't see around the corners. You have to put your nose out into the middle of the intersection just to see if there's another car coming. This creates a safety issue. To get to the edge of the road, farmers rip out trees, which is basically like ripping out the prairie grasses centuries before, possibly leading to another Dust Bowl. With the combined effects of that, our Ogallala aquifer is drying up with the amount of irrigation we use today, we could see another event such as the Dust Bowl. We have not completely fixed our soil erosion issue. Even today, our soil is being swept away 10 to 40 times faster than it is being replenished, destroying a piece of cropland the size of Indiana every year. Imagine if we lost all the crops from Indiana one year, and then added on all the crops we lost from Nebraska the next. The repercussions would be felt around the world. So, who's monitoring this issue? Soil erosion is a very slow process that will nickel and dime you until your land becomes unsuitable for farming. The Environmental Working Group uses technology to watch soil erosion. The Environmental Working Group stated that soil erosion is likely far worse in the Corn Belt than what Iowa State University had thought. If we don't take actions to prevent soil erosion further, we'll have another Dust Bowl on our hands. There are possible economic flaws to this too. If we don't take soil erosion as serious as it is, then we could be on the cusp of another stock crash and depression. Also, without the crops that come from the United States, we won't have the ethanol that we need to fuel our cars, and that with the combined effect that 75% of products in the grocery store are involved with corn, whether it be directly a can of corn or chicken that was fed by corn. One way to irrigate our crops effectively without causing any soil erosion would be using drip irrigation. Drip irrigation keeps the water close to the ground, preventing evaporation and requiring less water than a pivot does. Installing grass waterways is recommended for any slope that is over 2%. That's an elevation change of 2 feet for every 100 feet. That may seem excessive, but the truth of the matter is that if we don't prevent these scenarios to maintain our soil, we won't have anything left to grow for our future years. We must take action to preserve our soil. Without our soil and the crops that are grown on it, the entire world will feel the effects. We have been plagued with the effects of poor soil management before, and we are trying to combat those effects today. And we have looked at what the future could hold for us. Soil erosion must be taken seriously, or else we won't have any soil left to protect.
Why did you choose this topic?
I really loved our land judging that we did a few weeks ago, and soil erosion is a huge part of it, including slope, and I really enjoyed that part, so that's why I chose my topic.
Did you know that by having a type of grass or a type of produce like soybean that will keep the soil in the ground and help stop erosion, what would you plant to help stop erosion?
If I had to choose a crop to help stop erosion and to refertilize the soil, it would definitely be soybeans, because it's the most common and recommended practice if you do corn one year, soybeans the next, or depending on your soil, you can alternate which years you do or how many years you do each.